Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Social Liability Podcast. I'm your host, the Razgriz, with my co-host, the Buck Grundle, bringing you stories of people that just can't abide by the social contract we've all agreed to live by. So, we hopefully, Buck's got a decent little setup now with his computer, so we're not going to have as many issues with video and audio. We're hoping, but we tried to get you a new set of headphones, and that didn't quite work out, did it?
Well, they are sitting right beside me, and I can hear everything just fine through the headphones, even though I can't wear them because the cord that I am using is a little too short. They did not include that, even though the advertisement clearly said cord included. It was not.
You need to... Did you get them through Amazon?
Yeah.
Now, see, I don't... being that this is the Social Liability Podcast, I don't advocate pulling a Karen, but I do say that Amazon has some of the best customer service out there. So you call them up and say, hey, they'll say, oh, I'm real sorry about that. And they'll take care of you, typically.
Oh, I don't even need to be a Karen. There is no... Amazon gets no Karens because you call up and say, I've got a problem. They go, here's your money back. You're like, but my problem is that they're like, we don't care what your problem is. Take your money back. And we'll even send you out something that's right and give you your money back. And how do you like that? And anyone that would continue to argue with that is just off their rocker.
Well, see, and that's the thing. People still complain or take advantage of it. And a lot of people don't realize this. You're only allowed to do it so many times. If you do it so many times in a certain time frame, they kick you off the platform. So if you want to keep on Amazon, don't be a douche canoe.
Truth. Well, and then plus, I mean, like, go ahead and continue to attempt to burn down the bridges of corporate America because you'll probably end up finding yourself on our podcast because inevitably it'll end up in the news somewhere.
Oh yes, indeed, and we already had stories set for today, and they all had a kind of a theme to them that you sent me. So I was like, I didn't want to change anything or add to it, but there was definitely one today about one of the protesters in Portland. He kept showing these bruises, saying he was shot with beanbags, and first off, they weren't beanbags; they were pepper ball rounds. I'm well acquainted with what those bruises look like. I've had them all over my body as well. But the guy said how he was peacefully protesting. But as the cameraman's interviewing him, you can hear it in his voice. And then it shows the video of the guy scaling a fence and setting fires and trying to burn down a federal building. And the guy was clearly wasted in the video. And it almost made the cut today. But we did have a theme. And episode 9 is going to be entitled Breaking and Entering.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Some of the greatest recipes for comedy happen when people think that they're pulling off a heist. My.
Or they're just not thinking at all. So let's start us off with this isn't really so much a news source as a radio station. Drew and Michaels, the classic rock authority, 97X. I'm not sure where it's from, but it sounds like it's sounds like Michigan, maybe, because this is reported from the Trenton Police Department. 46-year-old Stacy Lynn Frazier of Trenton, Michigan, was arrested last week while wearing a high school football jersey that she allegedly stole after walking into a home. Okay, so apparently even at 46 years old, the chick still got a thing for football players. Keep that in mind. Frazier randomly walked into a home in Trenton, played with Grayson, the family's dog, it took me a second, sorry, and started cooking herself dinner. Unbeknownst to her, a 10-year-old boy was upstairs. The boy said Frazier sounded drunk as he grabbed a BB gun and hid under his bed before calling 911. Smart kid. Some random person is in my house trying to steal my dog, the boy said. I mean, but let's stop right there for a second. How terrified must this 10-year-old boy be to be at home and this just drunk chick comes stumbling into their house to play with her dog and make herself dinner, and more as we go through the story here. But seriously, how terrified do you think that child was?
I can't even imagine. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around exactly how this escalated that far. I mean, I guess no good story ever started with a salad. And this woman's obviously drunk, so go ahead. How does this pan out?
Well, Fraser's nightgown was found a few blocks away, so she was mostly naked when she broke in. According to homeowner John's something or other, I can't pronounce it. She put on my son's jersey, his football jersey, and my tennis shoes. Then, I don't know, she must have went out back with the dog to jump on the trampoline.
At least she wore proper footwear.
Indeed. Police arrived shortly after and arrested Fraser on home invasion first-degree charges. The family did not get their jersey back. And there's mugshots, too. There's booking photos. She's wearing the jersey in the booking photos.
Come on. They're not even going to give the jersey back? Come on.
Do you want it?
No. But the article made a clear point to say that the family didn't get it back. Somebody must have.
Well, it's probably still in her property.
You know what? I'm that would be the focal point for my very first shadow box. It really would be. Like, I've never made one before, but if I did, I would make it around that. Like, that seriously is just a great story to tell at Thanksgiving dinner.
I don't know. See, I don't drink. I've never been intoxicated. I am one of those boring people you're ever going to meet. Buck, on the other hand, can't make that claim.
No.
I didn't even get drunk at my bachelor party.
No, you did not.
I think I was the only sober one.
No, I didn't either. I had to drive home.
Did you drive? Huh.
No, our constable friend drove.
Right. After we made friends with the strippers. So
who better to make friends with?
That's a story for another podcast. We might have another podcast that revolves entirely around my bachelor party, because that was epic.
That was a pretty good time.
But just as a preview, because I think that is going to be an episode. We almost got into a fight with an NFL quarterback.
Yes, we did.
We did find the most disgusting stripper in Baltimore, Maryland. And
also true. We
went to a dive strip club and showed up a bouncer and threw someone into the street. Which at that point, you ever heard the old thing? Well, I was so good the hooker didn't even charge me. Well, the strippers didn't charge us the rest of the night, so we were pretty good.
Also true.
But again, story for another night. Let's go back to this drunk slag. So I can't profess to know what it's like to be drunk, but how is it enjoyable to get so shit-faced that you are literally breaking into people's houses, playing with your dogs, and scaring children? And she's apparently by herself, so apparently it was a fun time, all by her lonesome. Is that enjoyable to you?
I will tell you that it would be a shock at what you could find enjoyable when you don't remember exactly what it was that you did, and you just get like a third party account of it because of your drunk shenanigans, or B, you remember everything and just claim that you were so drunk you don't remember and hope that everybody forgives you. But yes, I mean, like you can end up having a pretty good time when you're drinking.
I just don't understand it. I mean, I'm so much of a control freak when it comes to myself. I'd be afraid of doing something like this dumb idiot. I mean, seriously, you just walk it. First off, you get naked. Okay, I like getting naked from time to time myself, but I don't get naked and roam the neighborhood and walk into my neighbors' houses either.
Agreed. And see, part of having that much fun and getting that drunk, I would suggest that you don't do that. But if you do get that intoxicated, have a chaperone.
I think the term you're looking for is a babysitter.
Well, regardless, I mean, like,
I mean, at that point, you're
somebody to keep you from doing that.
At that point, you might as well be a small child, hopped up on pixie sticks. Yeah,
either one could breed just as much humor. It would just all depend on the venue.
But I think the biggest the biggest piece of douchebaggery in this is she stole this kid's football jersey. Now,
Right.
now that kid's gonna have to go to school and explain to his coach. Some drunk lady broke into my house and stole it, and
Yeah.
that coach is gonna have him running laps because he's gonna tell him he's full of shit, and then then it's gonna pop up in the news, and that at least his number's not on there, but the family's name is, so I guess it's a wash. And now, oh my lord, the ridicule that boy's gonna take.
Yeah, that number's going to be forever retired to the evidence locker.
So not only
That,
she
that, that
she traumatized a 10-year-old, but I'm guessing it was a high school student had the jersey, because I can't see a grown woman fitting in a 10-year-old's jersey. Maybe, who knows? But nevertheless,
this is the same woman who decided to just take off her nightgown and go gallivanting around the neighborhood and just walk into any house. You're going to tell me that she might not attempt and succeed in squeezing her drunk ass into a 10-year-old's jersey?
well,
Oh my!
I'm looking at
I think that's exactly what happened.
I'm looking at the mugshots right now, and Lady Godiva, she is not. This woman's been rode pretty hard and put away wet, but the jersey is pretty big on her.
Eh, maybe it's a big 10-year-old.
That's possible too, but he did fit under the bed, so at least there's that. Oh, geez. So, I mean, not a whole lot to that one, but let's go over to Fox News, who is reporting about a man in New Haven, Connecticut, who was arrested earlier this week after breaking into a downtown restaurant during the coronavirus pandemic and helping himself to thousands of dollars worth of food and liquor over the course of 4 days. So not only did this guy break in, he moved in. I mean, really, if you're going to be... We all have our zombie apocalypse plans, and mine's always consisted of a Walmart. But this guy, he's taken the coronavirus plan and just inhabiting a restaurant, apparently.
I'm sure that the planning phase, he thought that this was like a gold star idea, and he just fucked up in the execution. I mean, that's all there is to it, man. I mean, guy obviously had a goal. He scanned it as far as he could scan it. 4 days later, he gets busted. And at least he's got thousands of dollars of free food and a good story to tell.
The burglar, identified as Luis Angel Ortiz, was first reported to the authorities after a manager of Sol de Cuba Cafe found Ortiz asleep inside the restaurant on Tuesday. According to a reporter for Fox 61, officers responded to find Ortiz down the street in possession of a bottle of the restaurant's rum, the New Haven Police Department confirmed. So the guy went completely Jack Sparrow, went in, had a party, and walked away with all the rum.
I got to give him credit. At least he took a fine bottle of spirits along. You know, can't go wrong with the rum.
You know what? I don't think I've ever had rum. After reviewing security footage, police determined Ortiz had broken into the cafe on Saturday and, quote, helped himself over the course of 4 days to the restaurant's food, liquor, and beer, end quote, also removing beverages and property from the restaurant. Ortiz is also accused of drinking and stealing about 70 bottles of liquor, the restaurant management estimated. Okay, so I know some heavy drinkers out there. I find, even over the course of 4 days, 70 bottles seems a bit...
That's a stretch.
I mean, it's maybe Cafe Sol de Cuba is padding the numbers a little bit for the insurance. Maybe.
Yeah, it sounds like there was some serious... I'll tell you what, Cuban food might not be the only thing cooking in that restaurant, because it sounds like somebody's been doing a lot of clever cooking with those books. 70 bottles of liquor in 4 days.
I mean, just breaking that down, you're still like 8 bottles. No, I guess it has to be like 18 bottles, like 18 bottles a day or something like that, wouldn't it?
You're jumping up there, buddy.
Yeah.
Either they're cooking the books or or he stole liquor and just like stole 70 bottles in 4 days.
Now that's
But
possible. That's possible. I'm not calling them liars. Not calling them liars. I'm just saying maybe when insurance claims go in, people tend to pad numbers a little bit.
of course.
Sol de Cuba Cafe is currently closed amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Ortiz has been charged with both burglary and larceny in the third degree, as well as criminal mischief. He has had a previous warrant for failure to appear in the second degree, police say. Either you don't appear or you do. I mean, why is there degrees to it? As of Wednesday, Ortiz was awaiting waiting an arraignment hearing in New Haven Superior Court. The Connecticut State Department of Corrections currently lists him as being detained at the New Haven Correctional Center. Oh, so I mean, at least there's a story to it. I mean, that might give him some leniency with the judge, even because it's just funny. And I've found over the years, as with policemen, with judges, as long as you can make them laugh, you stand a chance.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That judges love a good comedy show just as much as the next guy. If you can make it funny and exciting and engaging, as long as there's no victim, you might get off, a little bit lighter than what you thought.
Indeed. And judges do have a great sense of humor at times. Other times they're just, assholes. But I knew one judge. I actually when I got the gig doing the court interpreting.
Right.
There was one judge, you may have known him. I don't want to say his name, though. So don't you do it either. But mostly the court cases that I dealt with this judge were workers' compensation hearings. And I believe you sat in on some of his hearings.
Yep.
And starts with an E.
Yep.
Okay. And you would oftentimes have interpreters come in that were hired by counsel for their clients, and typically Spanish, but not always, but typically Spanish. And I'd be sitting there listening to these cases, and you would say, okay, well, this is a slam dunk. This guy's gonna win, and this judge would rule against him. And it was like, wow, wonder what I'm missing here, because everything was answered, spot on, blah. And, you find out later that the judge's wife was Guatemalan or Cuban. I can't remember. Doesn't matter, but she spoke fluent Spanish. Her family was Spanish. And this judge, who was whiter than Buck here, spoke fluent Spanish as well. So he knew what the claimants were actually saying, not what the reporter was trying to help his client with. So, despite what was on the record, this judge knew exactly what was being said. So it was amusing as hell when you find out about it later. But I've also seen judges that were just so enamored by the case that they'll joke with you during the hearings, and give lighter sentences if they just think it's funny, because their job sucks. They're listening all day long to just bad stuff. You don't hear anything good as a judge. You don't hear anything good as a corrections officer. You don't hear anything good as a police officer. And then they have to, amuse themselves somehow.
Oh, right. I mean, you have to extract the humor even from the most screwed up of situations. You really do. But it's funny, that judge that you're talking about, I found out that he spoke fluent Spanish after I had got done interpreting in his courtroom. Because it turns out, and it makes a great deal of sense, I just never thought of this before, but even when the judges do speak the language, they still have to get an interpreter.
Yes.
Because and right. And again, I was new, and I really didn't put all that together, and the judge looked at me afterwards and he told me, he goes, if you wouldn't have gone as far as to translating every single swear word those people said, I would have put a black mark against your name for the rest of your career as an interpreter. All I did was just smile and say thank you. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, it was a good thing I'm a corrections officer. But, whatever.
Yeah.
But they do. They have a great sense of humor, and some of them, some of them are, you wouldn't invite them to, like, a Christmas party at the office or whatever, anything like that. But you're decent enough people most of the time.
And they can also be amusing. So the way I got you in there was I had a friend who was a court reporter, and this court reporter, he was retired Air Force, and he always, the way he dresses, the way he carries himself, he looks military. You can't mistake this guy. He was military, and
Correct.
when the judge would refer to him, he always called him Colonel. And finally one day the guy says, Judge, I appreciate it, but I'm former military. I was not a colonel. I was a major. You can call me major if you want, but I'd appreciate if you stopped calling me colonel. He goes, huh? I always thought you were a colonel. Guess we'll have to do something about that. Fast forward a couple months. You've heard of Kentucky Fried Chicken, right?
Yeah. Is that how he got the Colonel of the Commonwealth designation?
So, in certain
Huh.
in certain states, there is an actual moniker. It's called a Colonel of the Commonwealth, and that's what the spokesman for KFC, that he was a Kentucky colonel. Well, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they have Commonwealth colonels. It's a designation appointed by the governor. It really, it's just like an honorarium. It's like getting knighted by the Queen, and all the judges got together and they had a letter signed by, at the time, Governor Rendell, and it has a medal and everything, and a letter and everything. He's a colonel of the Commonwealth. So
I always wondered about that. I saw the plaque hanging on his office wall every time I'd go and see him. And I always wanted to ask, but I just, there was always something more important that we were dealing with, and that just kind of got thrown to the wayside.
well, but see, that's the thing. Like, I equate it to being knighted by the Queen. Somebody just did this as a joke, and they got the governor to go along with it just because he thought it was funny too.
Well, right. But, the bottom line is that regardless of how big of a joke it was supposed to be, for the people involved, our buddy has a plaque and a medal and a certificate that he hangs on his wall. And
Oh, he had it framed. He had it framed, had it matted. It looks gorgeous.
Oh, it looks legit.
Well, it is legit.
No, I mean like legit, like important.
So that's the story of how our friend became a colonel of the Commonwealth. Completely out of left field in regards to that story, but I still thought it was amusing. So,
Yeah, but you know what? Our podcast, yeah, we have like a layout. It's not set in stone. It's organized chaos. We can go wherever we want to.
but let's go back to this guy. I mean, what's yours? I'd said my zombie apocalypse plan had been to go to a Walmart, because if you can, lock down the Walmart, you got everything you need for quite a while, especially if it's a super Walmart, providing it hasn't been looted completely. And my original plan had been a prison before Walking Dead did it. But you've had your own zombie plans, I'm sure, Buck. Because everybody has a zombie plan.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, my zombie plan, I'm just kind of hoping that it happens like the World War Z movie, where like,
oh, that movie was
I wouldn't
garbage.
You know what? The movie might have been garbage, but you know what? There's still a sliver of hope, because I'm a protected class against the zombie apocalypse. I am not a suitable host, because in any other kind of post-apocalyptic reality, all I am is the first one to go. I might as well not even turn on my wheelchair that morning. Like, seriously, I just sit there and wait and be like, okay, take me drunk. I'm home. Let's do it. My zombie apocalypse plan is to not die tired. Like, I'm going to go down. I will. Like, there's not an if, it's a when, So I guess my plan would be to put myself in a position to be able to remove myself from existence but with the least amount of pain possible. I'd probably ask your wife to shoot me. She would.
We're not close by. You might have to get yours to do it. He's thinking about it.
She wouldn't.
She'd
She said
miss.
she'd say she would, but she wouldn't.
She'd say, okay, but me first.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd be sitting there like, okay, great plan. Boom. Ah, shit.
Oh, jeez.
Like, I seriously like my zombie apocalypse plan. I mean, like, I don't have one anymore, man. I'd be just sitting up here in the draft waiting for you. I'd be like, man, Raz will come and get me.
That's a tall order, man. That's a
I'm
real tall
sorry,
order.
you're the audio cut out for a second. I'm sure that you agreed with me in a resounding way.
Moving on to our next story, and going with our theme, alcohol's involved. So this is being reported by News 7 from Boston. A drunk Attleboro man was arrested earlier this week after police say he broke into a zoo in the city to look at the monkeys that live on the island exhibit. At least he had
I
a
mean, like,
goal.
at least he has a perfectly good reason for breaking into the zoo.
Yeah, okay, monkeys. Monkeys, I guess, in Buck's eyes, warrant this type of behavior. So he's a real big fan of monkeys.
No, I never said it warranted it. I'm just saying at least there was an explanation. It's not a good one, but you know, at least it was there.
Joseph Vila, 52, was arrested around 11 a.m. on Tuesday. That's a.m., folks, not p.m. 11 a.m. on Tuesday when he walked along a city street after officers found his wallet at the Capron Park Zoo and reviewed surveillance footage from the night before. Attleboro Detective Timothy Cook confirmed. The break-in was said to be discovered by zoo workers arriving for work on Tuesday morning. Vila admitted to drinking and breaking into the zoo around 7 p.m. on Monday, according to Cook. So this guy broke in, was so drunk he broke in at 7 p.m. on Monday and was walking home on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Those must have been some interesting damn monkeys.
Ah, man, he just didn't want to split.
I guess so. He told officers when asked what he wanted to accomplish, "I was drunk and I wanted to go look at the monkeys."
Perfectly good reason.
You keep saying that. The zoo is not actually home to monkeys, but black and white ruffed lemurs do live on the island that sits in the middle of a pond. So he didn't even get to see a monkey. Oh, geez. All lemurs are prosimians, almost monkeys, according to the zoo's website. They are relatives to the earliest examples of primates left in the world. Why is this important for the story? I mean, they didn't have to say that, about the lemurs. They could have said, but there actually weren't any monkeys. Darn. And just left it at that. But this guy wants to, use the word prosimians because he wants to make sure that everyone knows that he's got a college degree and he's author. He's good enough to work for WHDH.
You know what? I bet you he was just banking on the fact that he doesn't like that there is a vast and really gross number of people who don't realize that spell check exists. So he was probably just thinking to himself, I'm going to look super smart.
Okay. At one point during the break-in, Vila boarded a small boat and started to paddle out to the island, police said. Vila later jumped out of the boat after getting struck and swam to shore. After getting stuck, and swam to shore where he allegedly dumped his wet clothes. No animals were harmed and no damage was reported. So at least he didn't break anything, and at least he didn't get friendly with a sheep. I mean, that's really the moral and the only good part you can take from this story.
You know what though? I mean, like, seriously, what better way to be able to look back on a drunken bender and just describe it as your like Robinson Crusoe experience? Like, yeah, my boat got stuck, so I had to swim through the harsh waters to the Monkey Island.
Lemur Island.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, to the Lemur Island.
They're prosimians, which is almost monkeys.
Next time I'll just lemur alone.
Boo.
Yeah, I was overreaching on that one.
So I mean, I really don't understand alcohol. I mean, I've I've drank a beer, I've drank wine, I've drank some liquors, sipping whiskeys and stuff like that. But I've never actually. I don't even know what a buzz feels like. The people that get so drunk that they're breaking into zoos to see the monkeys, breaking into people's houses to wear their children's clothes, and apparently play on their trampolines. The trampoline I can see, but breaking into their house to wear their clothes, I don't get that one. And breaking into a restaurant on a 4-day bender of eating and drinking yourself silly. Why would you do this to yourself? I don't understand. I don't. You're looking at me like you understand perfectly.
No, honestly, I really don't either. I will admit that I'm a terrible decision maker when I am drinking, which is why I don't do it. Like, I'm only listening to all of your all your comments, I was thinking to myself like that could have been me at one point in time or another. Like, because when you do drink in excess like that, you get stupid. That you just do.
Well, didn't you spend?
Reality begins to twist, and you're like, well, I'll just make my own reality. I refuse to accept your reality, and I substitute it with my own. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there having a party with a bunch of lemurs. I mean, like seriously, like what intelligent part of existence do you need to be in order to make a cognizant decision to go and do that? You wouldn't.
Well,
so alcohol
let's
alcohol removes all the sense and logic and reason from a situation, and you end up on a monkey, on a lemur island, and that's it. I mean, like,
how long did you spend in Mexico?
A little under 3 years.
And how much of that time were you drunk? If you had to put a number.
Under 3 years.
Well, you can't drink the water.
I couldn't drink the water down there. You couldn't drink the water down there. You can't drink the water. You get Montezuma's revenge a few times because you're brushing your teeth. You're like, screw it. I'll have beer and eggs. Thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was like in China too. You couldn't drink the water, so it was every hotel you went to. Every day they'd come by with bottles of water and to stock your room. Not when fresh towels and bottles of water, but you also had lots and lots of options to get bottled water. But the first phrase I learned in Mandarin, "Bu jiao bing," means no ice, please. And so every time we go to a restaurant, I had to get cola or something like that, and not get ice because the ice would melt, and you'd end up with no, what the hell was it? Doesn't matter. Your shit stinks, and you make a lot of it, and there's a bacteria. That's all you need to know. Probably the same deal with Montezuma's Revenge.
Well, I mean, you get terribly ill, and it's never a good cleanup story, and it can really wreck your vacation. But I can tell you, there were a lot of places I were down there where beer was cheaper than water.
Yeah.
I could go buy a 40. I could go into a supermarket down there, or a beer store, or wherever. A mom and pop corner store, or whatever. I could get a quart of beer. I'd go get a 40 for less than I could a half-liter of water. So of course I'll take the 40.
Fair enough, but I don't have any like drunken shenanigan stories. Surely you have at least one that you can share publicly, because I'm sure the statute of limitations has expired.
Well, no, I mean, I think probably one of the most innocent things I will admit to was I lost a fight to a scarecrow. I did. I was incredibly inebriated, and I'm walking down a path, and I was actually in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, which is where I lived at the time, and my Mexican roommate and I were going and strolling down the road, and the scarecrow just started saying terrible things, and I think he even brought my mama into it, if I can remember correctly. So I walked up to that straw-filled son of a bitch and punched it, and its arm detached from whatever it was secured to, and its little straw arm came and hit me in the face, and a skewer of straw about maybe 1.5 inches long went like between my eyelid and my eyeball,
Oh.
and I had to go to the emergency room to have that removed. And I don't know if there's an official rule book or whatever, but in my reality, he who goes to the hospital during a fight loses. Like, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what the other guy looks like. If you're the guy who's got to go to the hospital, you've lost the fight. And to the Scarecrow, I lost. That's probably one of my
See,
greatest self-proclaimed drunk moments.
I'm gonna throw one out there because I've never been drunk, but I have been around drunks, and I will admit to one that we were all minors. When I say minors, I mean minors. We weren't even 18 yet, and the idiots that were with me got drunk, and they thought it would be a great idea to go screw around in somebody's barn. Now, when I say into somebody's barn, I don't mean like this is their uncle's property or anything. This is just some random farmer's barn that happened to be within staggering distance of where we were at. And this led to us going into this barn. I have no idea why. We were in a barn. And the farmer objected to this because a bunch of noisy teenagers tend to alert you to their presence when they're in your barn. And I learned how quickly I can run that night. But I also learned that it didn't matter how fast I was running, you can't outrun a shotgun. And I still have the scars on my back from the salt that came out of that gun. And that was the first time I got shot.
I'll tell you, man. I got lucky. I dodged a lot of metaphorical bullets because I just didn't get caught very often. Not because I was skilled, and I blame that purely on dumb luck. I'm not like, an expert planner or anything like that. I normally fly by the seat of my pants through just about everything in life, and in those instances, I normally just get lucky. That's kind of been the story of my life. It's like I might not come out a winner, but I definitely keep my head above the water.
One of these days we're gonna have another retelling of drunk fables, and I've got one for my wife, but I don't have her permission to share it, so I'm not going to. But I think that we might actually bring her on the show one day to share that story because it was it was epic. But I can't think of any time where I've known anybody that got so blitzed that they just decided to commit a burglary.
No, I can't say that I can share that experience either.
So this all being said, I don't have a problem with alcohol. You want to drink, that's fine, as long as you're doing it responsibly, as long as you're taking care of yourself, or you have someone to take care of you. If you're doing it in your home, great, all the better, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, be it your children or your partner or anybody else.
Right.
But keep your ass at home or keep your ass at the bar and have a responsible way to get home. But don't go roaming the public, folks. This is why drunks have a bad name.
No stealing football jerseys. No camping out inside of restaurants and thinking you're going to get a free meal. None of that. Just stick around your house and be done.
Have you picked a theme for next week yet? Because you sent me all three of those stories.
No, I haven't picked a theme yet.
And did you intentionally find a theme, or was it just happenstance that you sent me three stories of drunken B&Es?
I'm going to chalk that one up to accidentally awesome, still being 100% awesome. Thank you.
Right on.
I did not. There was no planning involved there.
Right on. That being said, I think that's all we got for this week. You can catch us. We're going to try to do each and every week on many platforms, including Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Radio Public, and YouTube. It's a pretty big list. Numbers are going up. I greatly appreciate everyone that's been listening. You can please give us a 5-star review and leave us a rating. Send us any feedback on stories that you'd like to hear about on the Social Liability Podcast, and we'll get to you as soon as possible. You can also email us at socialliability@icloud.com, and we'll catch you next week with episode 10. And again, share the podcast with a friend. Help us get the word out. If you want to help,
please do.
People out there asking for, donate to my Patreon. No, we're not asking for your money. We're just asking you to, if you like us, tell somebody about us. That's all we're asking for. We don't want your money. We just want your praise and adoration.
Just pay us attention. That's it. Just pay attention. Don't pay money. Pay attention.
That being said, I hope you all have an outstanding week, and we'll catch you next week on the Social Liability Podcast.